Welcome to Business Pro Tips. Welcome to Business Pro Tips. Thank you for joining the show today. Today is Business Pro Tip Wednesday. As on Monday, I'm going to do something similar. This time I'm going to do a mind map dealing with guys, and I actually already have it all kind of pre-set up. This will help any guy out there kind of work off of a strategy so they can actually begin to see how they need to actually think about their finances from a perspective of growing their wealth. Now, again, if you welcome to Business Pro Tips. Thank you for Today is Wednesdays. Welcome to Business Pro Tips. I want to thank you for joining the show today. My name is Primo Fuego Galicia, and I'm your host on CFS Studios channel. All right. Welcome to Business Pro Tips. Welcome back. Today is Wednesday. It's time to get in there to help you guys out. I'm going to do a brain mental map. Business Pro Tip for men today is that's only for men on Wednesdays. I want to thank you for joining. Welcome to Business Pro Tip Wednesdays. I'm your host, Primo Fuego Galicia, and today we're going to jump right on in. 3 things we're going to cover today. We're going to take the opportunity to look at a warehouse supervisor, what his income actually is, all of his debt. We're going to also take the position to look at what opportunities he has and what money he has set aside to change his future and build wealth. Now, again, I'm going to put this disclaimer out there. I am not a financial advisor. I am not an accountant, and I'm not a lawyer. So on this show here, it's just suggestions. Some of the times that I'm doing business consulting, I deal with different clients. But on today's show, this is not specifically dealing with business and corporate consulting. This is just looking at men's financing and giving you suggestions. Okay. That's crazy. Okay. Welcome back to Business Pro Tips. Today is Wednesdays. Today we get to do a deep dive on a mental brain mapping for men. That's right. You can expect today to kind of see what a man's finances look like, what this man makes as a warehouse supervisor, how can he actually build wealth, what experiences he needs to gain, what opportunities are available to him, and what type of positions he'll take in order to change his future. I'm definitely excited about this show. Let's dive right on in. Let's have some fun. All right. So, as you know, every Wednesday we talk to guys very specifically. On Monday, I did a mind mapping for women. The way to think about your finances. For them, guys, I kind of already did it out. So this process now is, let me just pop it out here so you can actually see it. This gentleman, let's call him Eddie. Eddie's a warehouse supervisor. His monthly salary is $2,500. His taxes that come out of his paycheck is $460. He shares an apartment, 3-bedroom with a few friends. Total rent is $1,500. I got a 3-bedroom spot. Car insurance is about $108. His credit card payment is $60. He has shared internet bill of $50. Other expenses of $570. Those other expenses make up to be his car note, his credit card, as well as his credit card balance, which is $2,300, and his life insurance of $50. That comes out to be $570. That comes out of his check. His net pay after he pays everything. I mean, this is taking his income. Everything's out paid. He has $752 at the end of the month. This is the only money he actually has to build wealth that's come from his income. Now, just remember, as anybody who's a laborer, you're going to find out very quickly that taxes regarding the IRS. Again, I'm not an accountant. You want to check with your own person who does your taxes, an accountant. But I just want to make sure this is clear. The tax code is progressive, which means the more he makes, the more he pays. So his net pay is $752. He also has $710 in his building wealth to build wealth opportunity. So, you know, in retrospect, he has $1,280, which he can actually change his future, at least this month. He has that $710. We don't know how long it took him. But on the left side of him, this is where the money pit comes into play, because everything is green. Now, here are the opportunities that he has each and every day. These opportunities, not just him, we also, not just Eddie, but we have as well. So let's look at, on the right-hand side, we see Eddie's current situation. On the left hand, well, if you're looking at it, it's from the screen, it should be your left and your right. Right shows Eddie's financial situation. Left shows Eddie opportunities to change his financial situation without working a part-time job. He has paper assets. Paper assets fall in line with rental property income. He doesn't have any. He hasn't taken that opportunity yet. Retail trader. And in retail trading, you have equity shares. You can have ETF. You can have mutual funds. You can have preferred shares. You can have index funds. He doesn't take any opportunity. There's zero. At the local bank, his local bank, he has bank CDs, whether he can lock his money up for 1 year, 2 years. It has an interest rate. They'll pay him an interest per month, or a money market fund, zero. So Eddie is right at the position that most of us start from. If you living with your mom and dad, or you left your mom and dad, moved in with a couple of guys, or right out of college, moved in with some of your college roommates, this is a situation that you have. You have a job, $752 that you have every month, 710. You got $1,262 where you can make a decision to change your life. Now, let's actually take a decision, look at what Eddie has, and see what opportunities he have for him. Well, based on having $1,262, I'm going to basically say here that Eddie will not have this opportunity to go into rental property. Now, he can build up to that. You may say, yes, he can. But let's look at it this way. Eddie works a full-time job. So I'm going to put a caveat out there. Eddie works a full-time job, and in the process of working a full-time job, he is in a position where the way that he works is mid-shift. So he goes in from 11 and he gets off, let's say 11 to 7, sometimes gets off at 8. So he's a mid-shift guy. He's not working in the morning, exactly early in the morning. He's not working really late at night, third shift, but he's a mid-shift guy. And one of the other things that Eddie has is that when it comes to property, Eddie has bad credit. So he's not going to be able to go out there. Now, he can go out and do another form of paper assets. But here's the thing. We're looking at with the regular, for Eddie right now, he has a progressive tax code. So the more money he makes as a laborer, if he goes out to commission, his tax rate even goes up higher. As you know, if you work any overtime, you will notice that they take a lot of taxes and you get very little of the overtime. You get more of your net pay than you actually get of your overtime pay. So Eddie's saying, well, what could I do with what I have to begin to do investments for my life to increase my income without having any type of situation that's going to, put me in a higher, continue a higher tax bracket? What investments can I do? Because if he's working labor and he goes to commission, his taxes go higher. So a lot of times people do that and they don't really pay attention to that. But the difference between getting commissions and the difference between actually getting income, if you're not careful, you can actually pay more by being the commission side, or overtime, really is what I'm referring to, on the overtime side. So if you work in those overtime hours, you're going to be taxed higher at the time and a half or double time than you would be on regular pay. So that's not an option. Second, let's look at it this way. Does Eddie have enough money to go into the retail market? Now, one of the things I always use an example is that sometimes the relationships. If you're currently not in a relationship, let me explain this because it kind of makes it easy for you. If you're going to go into a relationship, look at it this way. I'm getting into a relationship with someone who can help me mature, which means that the person I get involved with, they have to have a full understanding of undeveloped, that I'm going to be going through the process of learning. And that's a key if you're going to have a healthy relationship. So let's take that example and then move towards a healthy relationship where never was a retail trader before. I don't have a financial advisor that managed my money. Eddie doesn't. So he's going to have to go through the process of maturing. What does that maturing mean? You ever went on a date, spent too much money, and the person didn't say? So Eddie has to begin to balance how much money he deploy if he's going to be a retail trader. He may buy equities, ETF, mutual funds, preferred stock, or index funds. And he may not have, there's so many different combination of strategies that you can do. He can buy trust. He can do trust accounts. He can do preferred stock, and it can be preferred equity or preferred interest only, or it could be ordinary dividend. So once you go into as a retail trader, he can do bonds. It's unlimited. This is just it's not stat. It's just an example of things he can get involved in. So let's say the equity says that he decides that he wants to go and he says, well, I got an Apple phone. Okay. And because he has an Apple phone, he's going to go to the position of saying, all right, here, let me look up Apple stock. Okay. So Apple stock prices, and we want to base everything on, let's say we base it on him buying one share. So we're going to look at a couple of things that we can begin to fill this out. For one, he has enough money to buy Apple shares. Just keep that in mind. Because from a standpoint, he has $710 in savings and $752. He got $1,200, so he can buy Apple shares. So let's say he decides that he wants to buy Apple shares. But before he does, he asks himself this fundamental question. And then we can also see on the right-hand side that there's Amazon. He shops at Amazon a lot. We look at Microsoft, $382 per share. We look at Samsung, 1,032. So pretty much, if we just look at the Apple, we look at Amazon, we look at Microsoft, we look at Samsung, he can buy one share of any of these. Now, when it's come to him and him going through the process of learning, Eddie, let's look at it. If he goes after Samsung, he can buy one share. If you go after Microsoft, most in this example, he can buy three. If you go after Amazon, if he uses savings, he's not going to be able to buy Samsung. He's going to have to use that extra money that's net plus his savings. But he says, you know what? I'm not trying to spend all of my net income. I'm only going to use my net income, but I'm not going to touch my savings. Well, then he can buy one share of Microsoft. He can go ahead and he can buy literally 3 shares of Amazon. And when it comes to Apple, he can buy, again, 3 shares. So he can buy these 3 shares. Now let's look at it. Does Amazon pay a dividend? No. So he's actually buying to hold. And then if he's going to make income in a 12-month basis, he has to buy Amazon to hold until the price goes to 154 or 155. That's his only way to make money. He has to exit. He literally has to buy the stock, wait, and then sell within a 12-month basis. Or maybe over the course of next year. Instead of carrying over 12 months, he's going to carry it over if he started carrying it less than 12 months, he's going to carry it over a year. He can do that. If he carries over a year, he brings his taxes down next year. But again, he only can do that if the price stays above. If the price goes down, he's going to have what they call capital depreciation. And he's going to see the market value go down, but his actual cost remains the same. Now, when it comes to this Apple, he can buy it. Now, the difference between the Microsoft, the Amazon, and the Apple is that Microsoft and Apple does pay a dividend. You know, if you actually look at let's go into more about the Apple here. So we can actually see something here. We can actually go and we look at it, it's $186. And we can ask the question. It has a dividend yield of 0.52%. But what is Apple's dividend? Let's see. Okay, Apple stocks, quarterly dividend. And I think I thought I was in Google, but I'm not in Google doing that. I am in Google Finance. Let's back that out. NASDAQ, Apple's quarterly dividend. All right. We'll come back to Amazon in a second. What is it? Apple pays 24 cents. Now, this is an interesting thing and most people don't do. But I'm going to show you something here. To spend $186.19 times 3 to pay $558.57. That's his cost. He's going to get on 3 shares. Now you got to keep in mind, you take 3 shares times 24 cents. He's going to make 72 cents. So you're going to spend $558 to make 72 cents. Now he may decide I'm going to do that. Me personally, if I'm looking at Eddie, again, he needs to talk to his own financial advisor. I'm not going to say nothing. He's going to tell me he has Apple. It's not my position to tell him, but I know that's a lot of money. $558 is a lot of money to pay to get 72 cents every 4 months or 3 times. You get it 4 times a year, every 90 days. That's a lot of money to spend. Let's look at what Microsoft is. So we're going to go back. We're going to look at, I'll take the position here, do a little deep dive into Microsoft and ask that question. What is Microsoft dividend? And you're paying even more money for Microsoft. It pays 75 cents. Well, I'm not even going to do the math on that because if you think about it, again, if you take 72 cents from Apple, which is 75, that's every quarter for those 3 shares. Well, he can't buy 3 shares if he does Amazon. I mean, if he does Microsoft, he can't buy 3 shares because he can buy 1, but by the time he buys the second one, if he's using the savings, he only get 1 share, so he make it 75 cents. So you would say, well, that's better than Apple because yes, he spent less money, but it is still better than Apple. But still, to spend $382.77 to only get 75 cents is a bit expensive. But let's just assume it for the sake of the matter. He decides to do the Microsoft trade because he has Microsoft on his computer. So now we want to go back to the screen. We want to now take his savings And we want to show it a little different way. We're going to put Microsoft in here. We're going to put that in. Actually, let's take the stock symbol, which I should have known what Microsoft stock symbol is, but my mind is, I'll take a Microsoft stock symbol here. We're going to take that and we're going to incorporate it into this box. Then we're going to put, this is where his saving went to. So we want to just put this here, and he spent $382 from his savings. So now his savings gets deducted down. When we go to that math, we're going to take the 710 minus the 382. He now has a total of $328 left in his savings. Interesting enough, he now has an equity share of 1, and he now gets 75 cents every 90 days. So at the end of the year, now the reason that I point this out is because I think a lot of times people don't really pay attention. I like Microsoft, I got Microsoft, and they got it. But really you need to look at, based on his income, $752 and having savings of $710, Microsoft, all jokes aside, anytime you spend over $100, again, this is my own suggestion to myself. Please take this as a grain of salt. I would never spend and buy a stock over $100 unless I have $100,000 that I have in savings, or I have in the market. There's just the amount of money that it takes to get 100 shares, because to get, you take in consideration Microsoft is 382. He would have to spend 382 times 100. This is how much money he has to pay to get 75 bucks. 38,200. To get 100 shares, it will cost him $38,200 on a salary of $2,500 every month, which means as a warehouse supervisor, Eddie only makes $30,000 a year. So he's actually makes $30,000 a year with his current income. And he did get a raise, don't get me wrong. Because if you take this 75 cents times 4 times, he's going to make 3 extra bucks. So now, in retrospect, this is what his new income is. Once he makes that decision with that $382 to buy that 1 share, his new income, guys, and we all can kind of know what this is, but that's his new income a year. $30,003. He didn't have to wait for his employer to give him a raise or not. He makes $30,003. Now, is that the best use of his money? Is that the best use of his money? For many people, they would say yes. For others, they would say absolutely not. But this is an example to say that, remember this, I said earlier, Eddie is in a relationship. He's never really he's growing, he's learning. His money that he has, he doesn't have a financial advisor. This is why people recommend getting one in the first place. But even if you get a financial advisor, sometimes they can put you in different trades where you're spending that same kind of money to get a share as well in a mutual fund. But let's not assume that that's happening, because right now on the screen, that's not part of the example. So he has his 382. As we talked about before, he has $328. But let's look at something here. So he owns 1 share of Microsoft. So even though he moved his money out, it's going to reflect differently. So when we see it here, this 75 cents comes from MSFK. So if I take this here, that's where it comes from. That's the dividend. Now I'm going to do another example. Again, now guys, I'm not telling you to take this example I'm about to give and use it at all. I'm not even going to recommend this, but I'm doing this as an example. And it's an older stock that I one time had purchased, made some money on, and got out of, to be quite honest with you. I held it, made over $80,000 on this trade. And let's just look at PRT. What are their dividends? Plymouth Rock. So the share price is $4.39. It pays quarterly dividends of $13. Now he has $382. Well, let's go back for a second. Let's keep this in mind. Now, I'm not recommending it. This is a trust. This was something I mentioned to you earlier. As you can see here, I have Premier Basin royalties. It's $13. You have Sabian Royalty Trust, you have NASDAQ index. I mean, you have those there. You have retail income at $59. I'm not going to say this is a good stock or a bad stock. All I'm doing right now is articulating that the difference in allocation of funds and then the experience understanding it. If you don't know anything about trust, I do not suggest you invest in a trust. I suggest you do your research. But from a standpoint, I'm only doing this because it's the oldest stock I used to have, not suggesting it. Don't get paid to talk about it at all. This is me strictly just doing something for guys to kind of help you look at increasing your income and the way that you can kind of mental mind map when you think about your finances. Because will he make $3 in his saving account over a course of 12 months by keeping the $710 there? The answer is absolutely not. He's not going to make that kind of money. So unless he's in some type of prime savings that you have to have a certain amount in at 5%, it's not going to happen. But this one pays 11.73. So let's keep going for a second. So now let's look at it. He has $382. If we take this number here of $328 and then we take 328, we're going to divide this by $4.39. He can end up with 74 shares. So let's go ahead now. Let's bring this down to, so we're going to take $4.39 times 74 shares, no fractions. If it gives you like 0.75, don't pay attention to that, just delete it. So he could take actually, so he's going to go and deduct, and we're going to put it here, PRT. Again, do not buy this unless you do your own research. Don't do it. 74. I'm not going to be responsible for if anything goes wrong in this stock and you don't have the background to understand what you're doing. So don't do it. So he's going to have 74 stock at $324. Once he goes and have that $324, he literally, he now has, as we all know, his saving now gets adjusted. We now move over to this section. Hit it here. We put PRT. We go here. And now we take this. Now we know, as an example, it pays 13 cents. Quarterly dividend, 13 cents. So we take this 13 cents times 74 shares. What's that's going to give us annually is $9.62. So he'll get $9.62. So this is 13 cents. From this 13 cents, again, he has $4 left in his savings. So his new savings is actually just $4. However, his income's going to go up, though. Instead of it going to 30, going to go up to $9.62. Hold on, let me make sure I do this right, because that's not correct. This is why I said that. It is 13 cents. You want to take 13 cents, and let me write this on the board here so you can actually see this. Just want to do this here. We want to take 13 cents. Let's go 0.13 times 74 shares equals, this is $9.62 times 4 equals, that's what I forgot to do. So $9.62 times 4, here we go. It comes out to be $38.48. As long as nothing changes. Again, when I say nothing changes, they don't change the price of what they're paying. As long as it's 13 cents as they continue, that's what he'll make. So now his income goes up to be $38.48. If we look at his expenses here, share internet bill, if he decided to do this twice, he now has his money through the purchase. I mean, he get this 70. So again, he has Microsoft. Let me put this back there because I think on the Microsoft side, he was getting 75 cents times 4, $3. So we need to add $3 to this. And that's going to be important because he still has that Microsoft stock. So when you're doing it in real time, you can't edit. I mean, I can go back and skip and all that, but I'm not. You guys are going to just realize that this is real life. I'm not going to adjust anything. Just where you can see I make mistakes too. So he's now up to $41.48. My question is, as Eddie is going through the process of actually navigating and learning, he's going to realize very quickly, like, man, I bought one share of Microsoft for $382. So his savings now look like this: $382 in Microsoft, $324 in PRT, $4 in actual cash. These two in paper. So he now has two paper assets under equity. Because on the Microsoft side, that's an equity purchase. On the trust side, they're equity units. So they're units. But it's still an equity position. And it is in PRT. Microsoft is computer software, and as you know now, they do AI, and they also do servers, and they also do cloud space. They also do other things. So, and then PRT is just truly drilling out of the ground oil and then paying out to the trust units who own the trust. But you can actually see that he can actually make more money, make $38.48 a year, using less money to buy in Microsoft. And that's what ends up happening when you go through the process of when he's having a relationship now with retail trading. He's going to gain experience and begin to realize, like, wait, so you're telling me I can actually go up and I can double my $38.40. If I just sell Microsoft, I can double my payout, and I can save even more money, put more money back in cash. The others in paper assets, it's still liquid, but it's just cash that's in the bank versus cash that's in the market. It's going to at least be 1 to 2 days for transferring, selling, settling, and then transferring. So you got to say that he can go up. And if he didn't do this, if he didn't have Microsoft here in PRT, he would, instead of making this is what he'd be making. And again, I'm going to give that disclaimer. Don't go out and buy this. Do your own research. I'm just giving an example to tell you how Eddie can do. He can make $76. This is a key, because if we take this $76 and we move it over to here, we now see his credit card can be paid off. Well, his credit card can now be, at least that's a monthly payment. So it can't be paid off. But at least if we take in consideration, how many more times do he have to utilize 710 to no longer pay a credit card? 11 more times. So he got 12 months. So if he dedicate his savings and then it's 710, and he says, okay, I'm going to take $710, and this is what I'm going to do. It won't be exactly 710 because, as you know, it's $324. So a little under $770 that he needs to do. 320. So 4. So he's doing pretty much $648. So he don't have to use the whole 752 a net pay or 710. But if he just dedicate himself 11 more times, this goes up to that 76 times 11 over 12 months, because he did 1 month, but 11 more months. What he would end up finding out is that he would make $846.56, and his income would go up. His income would go up by 800. So if you take in consideration that $76, he would actually have the credit card would now get paid. As you see there, he has a balance of $2,300. In 1 year is 846, bearing Eddie doesn't put anything else in his credit card and make it go in higher. But the reality is he's making 76. So out of 12 months, 1 month, he doesn't have to, it will not come from his labor. He can actually come from, or at least over the course of time. Because if you think about it, each quarter, he's going to get $76.96. So I misspoke earlier. My mind's running faster than my mouth is, than my brain is that he's getting $76 4 different times, guys. So that means 4 months out of the year, his credit card payment can be paid by his savings. Remember, his savings is still here. It just looks differently. His savings is still here. This is his savings. He just moved the way his savings is being interpreted. And that's really what wealth is. Wealth is experience, and then moving things that the way it's interpreted has a benefit. because will he get 11.5% at the local bank? No. Is there other stocks? Yes, it is possibly. But for today, business pro tips, go back and watch it, look at the numbers, and play around with it. I think, part of, getting information is being informed, and then you go do your learning. That's what Mondays and that's what Wednesdays about. I mean, I enjoy kind of going through this process. I apologize for the, some of the mishaps that I had earlier, but if you just go back and you're just joining us, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us. But I think it's imperative and important that you would consider Eddie's finances and say, okay, he makes 30,000 a year. He'll end up making, with the scenario, if he just keeps Microsoft and PRT, he'll make $41.48. However, if he gets completely out of Microsoft, his income will go up. As I mentioned to you guys earlier, his income will go up because he's going to make that $38.48 instead of just getting that $962. His income's going to go up, and that $76 is going to be a key factor there. And if he continues to go through the process, and again, if he continues through this process mathematically, even though I said some errors as I was doing this, because this is the first time I kind of went in depth in this regards. I normally not doing this in real time from a standpoint of doing it here, but just looking at it, he is going to make $38.48. That's poor. You do that times two, because it's $9.62. That goes up. You just do $9.62 times two. So the 32 ended up being $76.96. So once a year, I was right earlier. I did apologize. So if he continues to do this over 12 months, though, that's where it came into play. That becomes $76.96, in case I confused you guys earlier. $76.96. That's because he spent $648 each month for 12 months. And once he did that, he's now going to be, if you take that scenario and the $76.96 times 12, that's where you get that number from. So $76.96. That's 12 times he did this. He put it in his savings. He reinterpreted how his savings express what his savings is. And now his saving generates income. That is really the goal of the wealthy, is finding ways of how to have your savings express itself in a way that it generates money at an increased rate than what you do from your local deposit at your bank. I hope you enjoyed Business Pro Tips Wednesday. As I get better communicating this on a mind mapping, you guys get better to see better content. And I'm going to have a little fun on Monday, but we get back to our regular show on Friday. We're going to get back into some business topics, especially if you're an entrepreneur or you are an employee, just how to interact with business, how to maximize it. That's what the whole show is about, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to look at our shorts. It's all about jokes or shocking things. It's not about business. It's probably the only time I kind of step away from business, just to kind of put something out there, because you got to laugh about yourself. It's not always about welfare time. You need to get Google ha ha he he. And again, don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video with a friend or family. Hopefully you learned something from it. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Have a great and wonderful rest of your day.